Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Bush League Huddle, episode 2. I'm your host, Anthony, or as my co hosts call me, Nacc. And I'm joined by my co host, Raj and Fabio. How are you doing today, boys?
What's up?
What's up, but guys? Good to see you.
So we finished our first one. We got some great feedback from the audience, which was greatly appreciated. Thank you for everyone who took the time to listen and to provide their feedback. How'd you guys think it went?
I thought it was a little bit rocky at first. No, who am I kidding? It went fantastic. It was great. It was so much fun. It was great. It was a lot of fun. The nerves were there, but like as we got into it more, it got more fluid and like it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I did get a lot of good feedback from a lot of people that I actually haven't spoken to in a little bit, and they were kind enough to reach out to me on Instagram. You know who you are if you're listening to episode 2. So that was really cool and it was nice and yeah, a lot of positive feedback. The intro was a big hit. The intro music leading up to that. So no, positive all around. Yeah.
Yeah, the intro music slaps as I've been saying, and I thought that the silence that we just started with was like, oh no, it wasn't good, but no, I think it was great. We got some great feedback, and very much looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I didn't know what to expect at first. It's obviously my first podcast. I know Raj, you have a little bit of experience in it, but I guess for me and Fab, it was kind of our first. So it was definitely exciting, definitely very very fun, and looking forward to many more episodes to come. So today on episode 2, as we are about 1 month away, as we're taping this, exactly 1 month away from the draft. So we're going to take a look at the top 6 QB prospects. I guess as we get closer to the draft, every week we'll dive into um, a new position group. So this week we'll focus on QBs. Next week we'll focus probably on wide receivers and so on and so forth. So we'll bring that kind of content to the pod up until the draft. So we could start. We could go dive right in. I guess Raj, Mr. SC over there. I don't think there's any doubts of Caleb Williams going number 1, right?
Yeah, I've said it to you guys. I've said it within our group chat as well. Just the fact that Lincoln Riley, he coached Baker Mayfield, he coached Jalen Hurts, he coached Kyler Murray. They're not necessarily on their way to Canton, but they're three QBs that have been in the Heisman final. Two of them won Heisman trophies, so the floor is really high for all of them, and I think the floor is really high for Caleb. I have a hard time seeing him bust. He had like almost, I think, like almost 95 TDs in his career, only like 10 or 14 interceptions, and he's like the best like off-platform thrower. Like he doesn't need his feet set. He can make those trick shots. He could scramble out of the pocket. He can make quick reads too. So, and if you factor in Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, even the offensive coordinator that they have Shane Waldron that they just hired, like he's worked in the McVay offense before, so he has all the tools to succeed. I have a hard time really thinking that he'll bust, but you never know.
Yeah, I agree with that. You hit on a lot of good points. I mean, I think the biggest one is that they're surrounding him with a lot of weapons. I know we touched on that, the little snippet that we posted the other day, that they are setting him up to succeed, or at least have every opportunity to succeed, which I think is super important for a rookie QB coming in. But this guy also has a ton of confidence. I mean, he's coming in already like loaded, ready to go. He he's so sure of himself, and yeah, I think that might have been a bit of a knock during a lot of the combine stuff, and a lot of people are giving him a knock on his attitude and all that. And like, I'll come forward. I was a little bit That was the only issue I might have had with him, apart like everything apart from the physical attributes and how spectacular of a prospect he is. There was that bit of a I don't want to say an attitude issue, but there's always the personality dysfunctionality that might exist within quarterbacks. But you saw him at the combine, you saw him at the pro day. At his pro day, he was dapping everybody. He was talking to all the guys. Even during the combine, he was like hanging around waiting for his teammates to finish their routines and their sets and everything. So it's hard for me to have any sort of negativity towards or negative comment towards Caleb. And and that's even taking into consideration the fact that like out of all six major prospects, I think he had the highest sack rate. He had like a 35% sack rate on third down or something, which was super, super high. But then again, you look at the team he was playing for too. They were void of talent compared to, especially on the defensive side, compared to the other college teams.
for sure.
But apart from that, it's I got nothing else. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
No, no, no. I definitely agree with both of what you're saying for sure. And to Raj's point, they're bringing him in, and there's talent. So if he cannot succeed with the talent that's there, I think that's not a Bears failure. I think like they're all being talked about on how they failed on Trubisky and how they failed on Fields, and even like go back to Cutler before that. They're saying that they can't groom a QB. Well, I think this is Poles' first time. He didn't draft Fields, right? So I think Poles is now surrounding him, seeing the failures that they had there. Now he's surrounded him with two top end wide receivers in Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. So he's got the talent there. He's got the talent in the backfield. So I think if he does fail, I think that's on Caleb, not on the Bears, unless they really decide to be, I don't know, unless it gets into a train wreck over there. But I can't imagine it is with that sort of talent. He has arguably the best talent he's ever had surrounded him, so he can't. I don't see how he does fail. Uh, all the bus talk, I don't know. I can't. I don't see it either. I also heard something interesting. It was yesterday or the day before on how he's the first superstar nil player to come into the league. So you see how he is with money, right? A lot of these kids come into the NFL and they get their first paycheck or they're paid millions and they go off the handle. They think they're this guy he made $10 million last year. He made more than 90% of the coaches were even making in college. So it's like the first time a superstar comes out, has the money, and look, he's still, like you said, Fab, to your point, watching his friends finish um, their combines and had a sick pro day and went about it. You know what? Like everyone, I had a problem with him too. Skip. Oh, I don't want to throw. I don't want to do this. But you know what? Like why? Why should he? He did everything. It's all on tape. I think everything he's done so far, just haters gonna hate at every point, right? Like let him come in, let his play dictate first before you judge him.
Yeah, I mean, the whole nil thing is a very good point. I think that's an interesting segue as well, like to talk about how like that is taking over a little bit more in the past. You're seeing a lot more. You're seeing a lot of college players have more power than what they did before. They are dictating a little bit how they want their days to go, how they want their pro day to go, how they want their interview process to go, how they want their medicals to go. Because Caleb didn't even want to get his medicals done at the combine. So it's funny how that now like the power shift, the dynamic has shifted a little bit to the college players, which for all intents and purposes, I don't think it's a bad thing at all because the NFL and even the NCAA they were really they were monetarily benefiting so much from all this, and the players never got anything in the beginning. So it's nice that is turning the corner a little bit. But even despite that, Nacc, it's a very good point you bring up. You can still see how like you can still see how genuine he is as a person, right? As a teammate and all that, and eventually a leader too. Because the quarterbacks, drafting a quarterback, they always talk about how you're drafting the person, and I think a lot of guys might galvanize behind him. Like Keenan Allen was at his pro day. He didn't get drafted by the Bears yet. Like you know what I mean? Keenan Allen was there. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so
he had
but
been
it's
traded
good.
there already.
Yes, but I'm saying is that Caleb hasn't been drafted by
Oh
the
no,
Bears yet.
okay,
They
yeah, that's
already have a
yeah,
wide
for
receiver.
sure. But
Yeah,
they've
they
been
have a wide
friends. They've been
receiver.
friends for the
Oh,
past
okay.
little bit.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, but he's going into a
I,
great
I,
situation.
I just like how you guys call it nil. I think I'm gonna call it nil and not NIL.
It's fair point. We sound like rookies there. It is definitely NIL.
Can,
I actually prefer nil
can
anyways.
we actually? So maybe for the uninitiated, I'm sure there's a lot of listeners here that are listening to fantasy football for the first time, and even listening to a lot of this content for the first time. Can we maybe dive in or segue a little bit into what NIL is
Take it, Raj.
and how?
Yeah. Yeah, so I could take it. So basically, NIL is name, image, and likeness. So before NIL, name, image, and likeness was available to college athletes, they couldn't really like market themselves. They couldn't get like commercial deals. They couldn't get money from outside sources. And now a lot of college players, since its inception, I want to say it's about 3 to 4 years. Someone like Caleb Williams or Shadur Sanders, they can first of all go to a school that could help them offer the best NIL deal, like USC or Colorado. Those are big brands, and then they can find money in terms of like for instance, Caleb has a deal with Delta. I don't know how much it pays him specifically, but he doesn't get a deal with Delta if he's at like let's say UC Irvine or like Santa Barbara, whatever. So the fact that he's at USC, the fact that Shader's at Colorado, Alabama, those are big brands. They're able to make money, and it, like you said, Fab, it shifts the landscape where these guys before it was under the table if they were getting money, or they weren't getting money at all. So you're seeing college players stay an extra year, an extra 2 years because they're able to make money while being in college. So I think it's had a big benefit. Maybe on the flip side, coaches don't like it because instead of like recruiting for the sake of, hey, I want a guy to come in because he wants to play for Bama, or I want a guy to come in to play because he wants to play for Florida State. Now he wants to come for the monetary
And look,
reasoning.
Saban obviously didn't like it, and I'm 100%
Perfect
sure
example.
that obviously was the reason he stepped down this year. He couldn't take it. I mean, look, I think it's got to be somewhat regulated because it's still new. It's still like you said, players are just coming in to make their money and what. And look, you should, right? This is your career, and I commend you for it. Do it, make your money when you can, but it's got to be some kind of give and take aspect to it. And I think that's what Saban was looking for and is fighting for, I guess, behind the scenes. But yeah, basically, like you said, college players are now willing to stay that extra year instead of fighting to come to the NFL as early as possible. Like you're not seeing 20-year
Yeah,
olds get drafted very often anymore, right? Like it's just
yeah.
not the case.
You got to thank Johnny Manziel for a lot of that after all that scratch that he was putting together in that
For
position.
sure.
When
One of
he was
many
a
Manziel.
he
There's a
was a
ton of them.
pioneer for that. He was a
Yeah,
pioneer.
Totally.
But but it's funny that that probably pushed a lot of the NIL agenda to go forward, right? Because they probably notice how much of a impact it has for
sure.
players, and it definitely moved the needle. Yeah.
It's like legalizing marijuana.
Pretty much, right? I mean,
Same basis.
if you can control it now. You can tax it. You can profit from it too. You can monetize it. It can blow up into
You
something
could still
bigger.
smoke it.
100%, 100%.
Well, bearing a huge surprise, we all agree, I think, that the Bears are taking Caleb number one. And I mean, after trading Justin Fields, I don't see them trading down for an abundance of picks. So let's just say for this scenario, he is pick number one. Who do we like at number two to Washington, or are we sure Washington stays? Uh,
I think Washington stays, and so as of as of today, Monday, March 25th, 2024, at 8:58 p.m., Tom Pelissero from NFL Network. Shout out Tom if you're listening. We appreciate all your work. He let go of a little nugget because also this week I believe all the GMs and the head coaches and they're all meeting at the annual NFL meeting. And so because I suppose they're all there at the same time, a lot of the network guys are there too and covering a lot of stuff. That way they break news, just like the whole hip drop tackle that dropped today and everything. And with a lot of these people in the same area comes a lot of the conversations that a lot of people wouldn't normally be privy to. So I guess Tom heard that some of the GMs, especially the Washington one, apparently is super high on JJ McCarthy.
wow.
Like, don't be shocked if JJ McCarthy gets drafted second overall. And for them to drop that piece of news, I don't think it's nothing. I think there's a little bit of meat, there's a little bit of fire in that smoke type thing. I mean, JJ McCarthy, and also today Harbaugh came out. He said that JJ McCarthy was what, like his best quarterback prospect or the best quarterback he's played with. Like he had such
Yeah, he's been saying that. He's been saying
like
that for a
I think
while
he
now.
went on
Yeah.
record today, like during an ESPN interview too, and
Yeah.
really like emphatically, just point blank, like he is the best quarterback. There's always been a knock on JJ that he doesn't have as much of a body of work, or that he doesn't have the stats to back up his play that could be at the NFL level. But the thing that's benefited McCarthy so much is that he plays in such a pro style offense as well. So he's also probably the most pro ready. Um, it's too. I don't think his pro day happened yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But
Yeah, it
it,
happened.
it
It was
right. Sorry, it was the other
Friday.
guys that didn't happen yet. They're happening this week. Jayden Daniels and May and
Jaden.
Bo
Yeah.
Nix. Sorry. Yeah, and he made a lot of the great throws that he expected to be made and all that. And everyone said it looked really clean. So I don't know. Honestly, I think for me it's still Drake May that should be going second. I think he's the most polished quarterback as well after Caleb Williams. I was listening to a lot of the podcast about how he does make all the throws and he does make the intermediate throws and he throws down the middle, which was a big knock on some of the other quarterbacks.
I,
But I don't know. After today, it's like everything is in the blender now, right? I mean, especially when it comes this close to the draft season. We saw it a few years ago, guys flying all over the radar and everything. It's exciting. Yeah.
I think the knock on May was his footwork, right? People were saying that his footwork was just not. It's not NFL ready. Like he
Yeah.
stumbles a bit, like he's not really light on his feet. Um, so I guess like look, he does. He has the build, right? They're saying he has the Josh Allen Big Ben type build. They say he was. They were saying he was the most quarterback ready QB. I don't know if I would go that far. I think he would benefit from sitting behind someone. Who did Washington sign? That's it. That's it.
Mariota.
So look, I think Mariota is going to get his shot to start again, possibly. But
Mm.
I think being Mariota, he's got a big chance of losing the job in training camp too. Look, you could say all you want; it's his job to lose, but he could very well lose it to a Drake May uh, in the summer.
Well, I think by them trading Howell a few days ago or whatever, it was like a week ago, sort of cements the fact that whoever they draft second overall, whatever quarterback they draft, they fully expect this guy to start week one. Like whether they want to posturize it as a quarterback battle and all that stuff for the media and headlines. I think because I'm on the same page as you, Nacc. Like I want these guys to sit at least for a little while. I don't think Washington wants to do that. I think this guy's going to get drafted, and if it's Drake May, he's going to start week one, or if it's GG McCarthy, he's going to start week one. I don't know about Jayden Daniels, but
So the consensus around May, from what I've listened to like Chase Daniel and a lot of some of the other QBs, is May needs to sit because of what Nacc said, the footwork. He didn't have a good O line at North Carolina, so when you don't have a good O line, you have to be able to set your feet and make calls to see the blitz, and he's not. He hasn't. It doesn't seem like he's doing that. And then I look at who the backup is. So if you think that May can't start, he has to sit, right? And you see Mariota's the backup. That leads me to, I agree with you, Fab, either Jayden Daniels or JJ McCarthy for Washington. Um, with regards to McCarthy, like the thing with the Big Ten offenses is that all Big Ten offenses they run a lot of pro style offense or pro style. They huddle. They don't use those like goofy cards that like the offensive coordinator shows like Britney Spears and like that means it's like a Hail Mary or whatever, right? So they run the ball a lot. It's a lot of power eye. So that's what McCarthy did. He did a lot of that at Michigan. Like I watched a lot of Michigan games, so I noticed that. So it's hard to say, hey, like it's not his fault that they're not necessarily utilizing as much because in the Big Ten they run the football, right? He had like 2,900 yards, 22 TDs, 4 touchdowns. Not too many starts, but I find he has a good arm. He could run really well. The only concerns I kind of have is when I see him, I see a bit of Zach Wilson in terms of like the mobility, the live arm. Even during his pro day, he was able like the way he ran his bootleg, the way he did his trick shots, like it reminded me a bit of Zach Wilson, but the fact that he played in the Big Ten, I think, is a big win for him. And he played under Harbaugh, who played in the NFL. I think he has the leadership capability. So I agree with McCarthy being the right fit, or Daniels for Washington. I don't know if we're gonna jump on Daniels now, but I think it's one of those two for Washington. I don't think it's May
Do you think
at this
there's
point.
any chance Washington's calling Chicago to move up to one? On the odd chance that Chicago says, you know what, like maybe I won't. Like if you give me a king's ransom to go down one spot, Caleb wears the same colors. He's from there. Like I don't know. I just it's one of those things that just keeps popping up as a story. I can't see the Bears trading down even one spot.
I don't think the
Yeah.
Bears pass on it.
I think it's going to take a deal similar to what Kevin Costner got in the movie The Draft, where it's like number one picks for the next like 4 years or whatever it is, right? Like I think it's going to only take something like that.
You guys remember Ricky Williams and Mike Ditka with the Saints?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It was like five. I
It
don't know,
was
like three
it
or
was a
four
lot.
or five
It was a
first
lot. I don't
rounders.
remember how many there
yeah.
were, but
It
there
was
was
a
a lot.
ton. Yeah,
It was just
yeah,
crazy. It was
yeah,
nuts.
something like
Yeah,
that.
I don't know. Look,
Yeah,
if Washington is desperate and really wants him and says, "Hey, I'll give you the next 3 years of first round picks to move to two," you don't think Chicago at least entertains it?
100%. I don't see how you can't.
Give me the next 3 years of ones and a two this year or something. Like man, you've just cemented and you get what. Like, your consolation is a Jayden Daniels or a Jake May, or hey, maybe they like JJ McCarthy this whole time and he wants to go. Like I don't know. Like again, it just this is all speculation. I think we can go for hours talking about this, but uh,
But I have a good. It's funny you say that because I was reading. So for all the listeners out there, Roger and I are Giants fans. So this is kind of a big draft for
boo.
us because we may or may not be getting. Shut up, Nacc. No one cares about fucking Steelers. That we may or may not be getting a potential quarterback, especially now that JJ McCarthy might be going second overall. There's a if that rumor actually is true, there is a real chance that like Drake May or Jayden Daniels actually falls to six, just by how everything else plays out. But anyways, we can talk about that later. Joe Shane, the GM for the Giants, he mentioned today about how the margin of error is so small, yet the is so big for drafting a quarterback. Because if you draft like let's say an offensive tackle, oh shit, like he didn't pan out to be like my starting right guard or my starting right tackle. Well, he's depth. I have him on my bench.
exactly.
I need like three or
Yeah,
four guards anyways. It's okay. Same thing with wide receivers. Obviously a little bit less so, but same concept. Quarterback, and we've seen it already from 2021, right? Just the guys that like Nacc, you rattled off a bunch of names the other day about guys that were in the league, non the league, benched, and they were all like starting or they were all drafted in the first
Well,
round.
just because
The
it's similar to this draft. You have that one guy who like everyone thinks and believes is better than everyone in Caleb Williams, and in 2021 it was Lawrence. And then everyone
that
else that passed in that draft is either a backup or not in the league um, anymore. I think they're all
exactly.
backups actually.
So
To be the next four were all backups so far, or the next
yes,
five even.
yes,
yes,
Yeah,
yeah. They're all
they're
backups
all
now.
backups right
Yeah,
now.
and that just sort of it cements that point where it's like you if you want your guy, it doesn't matter what he costs, you get him. So whether
I
you're in
agree.
Chicago's spot and it's like five first round picks, six first round picks, it's like like it's I know it's not going to happen, right? Let's just use a very ridiculous
yeah,
example. It's like okay, that's great and all, but I might never get a guy like this again for five
But
or
that's what I'm
six
saying. To
years.
your point, that's what I'm saying
exactly.
is Washington, new ownership, right? Guy comes in, new
Yeah,
regime, cleans house. Maybe he's desperate, and maybe he says, you know what, like we'll just hope to hit on second round picks for the next 3 years, and we want our guy, And I'm sure the Bears are getting calls on it. I'd be shocked if they weren't. But anyways,
yeah,
anyways, I mean, next guy that could go two, that could go three, that could go later. There's Jayden Daniels, mobile type quarterback. Um, I think he's probably close to ready. I'd love to see him sit a year, but I think he's as close as anything to ready to play in the NFL. Um, Look, if he goes to New England, at least you have some guy who's if you have a Jacoby Brissett who can spot start for a year, and I'd love Jacoby Brissett to spot start and Jaden to learn from him. Brissett's been a pro. He's been around the league. He was actually drafted by the Patriots, so it's a little bit of a homecoming for him. Um, but no, I don't, I don't know. I can't see the Patriots not going QB. Uh, hey, maybe McCarthy's still there, and they go for him instead at three. Who knows? Like you keep saying, he keeps rising up the draft boards. But I think Daniels is a very very interesting prospect as well.
So I really think for the Pats, this is where they go May because to your point, Fab, they have Nacc, they have Brissett, and if a lot of the consensus is that May needs to sit. I mean, if Daniels is available, I don't think he sits because he's had 55 starts. Like it's a lot of starts for a college QB, and there was an article I don't remember who wrote it. Forgive me, but they're doing a correlation on college starts and success at the NFL level, and it seemed like there was somewhat of a correlation where the more starts you get in college, the higher likelihood that you do have success in the NFL. So Daniels is a 5, 6 year guy, like crazy speed, crazy arm. But he had a lot of talent. He has like there's two wide receivers, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, who are likely going to be. Malik is going to be top five at the very least, top six max, and Brian Thomas will definitely be a mid first rounder. So it's hard to I think it's hard for probably some evaluators to say how good is he versus the type of skill position that he's had, but he throws really, really, really good deep ball, and he's fast as hell. I see him like in the Lamar Jackson mold. It's just that he's really, really thin. Like he's rail thin, and if you watch his highlights, he takes a ton of hits. Like it's kind of a good thing. Like he has that Josh Allen mold where he dives into guys. Like he fights for extra yard, but he's like literally 200 pounds. So he's gonna have to be wary of that, and they're
Yeah,
gonna
I
have to
should probably
control that
talk
for sure.
to Anthony Richardson about that. See how it went. To not slide a little bit and try to make all the plays,
Yeah.
especially when you don't need to be Superman. Um, I think staying on the field is a better option for your team and for yourself. So I think yeah, learning how to not always take those big hits goes a long way for sure.
Yeah, I was going to make that comparison actually to Anthony Richardson. So you jump cut me on that. That's and Anthony Richardson is like what, maybe 40 pounds heavier than
He's
Jayden
a beast.
Daniels.
He's more Cam
Yeah.
Newton style.
Big boy.
Yeah,
The big boy.
and he was taking all those hits and he didn't finish the season and he got injured twice, if I'm not mistaken, last season in his
Yep.
first season. So it's not a it's definitely a dangerous game to be playing like him. But then again, you see Lamar Jackson do it too. Lamar Jackson is very slender. I'm not saying he's going to be like Lamar, but there is there is an example that exists out there that he could emulate. He did win the Heisman Trophy too. I think from a fantasy perspective, since we do want to pivot to the fantasy aspect a little bit too, I think Jayden Daniels would be the most interesting one right off the gates if we're drafting in a two quarterback league and if we're drafting for next year from a quarterback standpoint. Caleb Williams could be interesting. I see him maybe turning out to be like best case scenario would be like a CJ Stroud year one, you know. But I think that Jayden Daniels could have some rushing upside that could be fantasy viable as well. I also don't know how he's going to like. Let's say if he does go to New England, what's the ecosystem there? Is it going to be a viable situation for him to thrive? Right, because Washington have been doing a lot of moves in the offseason as well, right? They've been getting a lot of they've been changing a lot of their alignment too. They've been trying to make it a bit of a more beneficial area for quarterbacks to thrive, or at least they're the quarterback that they plan on drafting to thrive. New England, they've been very hush hush about their plans. It's hard to figure out what's going to happen with the new regime there, especially with Belichick. It's no longer there. The new head coach. I don't necessarily know if they would even go quarterback. It's not a foregone conclusion, I
Yeah.
think.
I don't know about
No.
the problem is they should go quarterback only because they have Brissett and they have the guy who could start a year 100% and be comfortable there. The problem is any rookie QB that goes to New England does not have weapons there to help the guy out, right? Like he's going to be instant fail. It's going to be similar to what Mac Jones did. Mac Jones came in, whatever he played really well as his first year, but did not get any help, and then it kind of crashed and burned, and they didn't help him out at all. They tried to make a couple moves. They had Smith Schuster come in last year. They still had Devontae Parker. It didn't work out, but they let Jacoby Myers out the door for some reason. Finally hit on a receiver. They have a good receiver, and they let him go to Vegas. Like, didn't make any sense to me. So I think, to your point, yeah, whoever, I think they should draft a quarterback because it's important, and who knows when you're going to get an opportunity like this again. But without weapons, I think that QB, no matter who he is, has to sit a year because he's going to go into uh, a really, really ugly situation in New England. And like you said, Washington has receivers too, right? You've got Dotson, you've got McLaurin, um, you've got weapons for him. He's got a little bit of backfield help as well over there. So
Yeah, they signed Eckler in the offseason, right? So
yeah,
they
and
Eckler,
already have.
and they
they
have
still
still
have
have
Brian Robinson. Yeah,
Brian
so
Robinson.
Yeah,
they still have
yeah. So
a backfield to help the guy out. Like those two guys are going into pretty good situations.
yeah,
Fab, just I like the point about the Daniels in the fantasy. 1,000 yards rushing last year
yep,
and 10 rushing
yep,
TDs.
yeah. It's def
Guys are
we
freak athletes.
100%. We can't overlook it, and that's why I thought it was important to bring up to like, okay, this guy might be drafted as a top 20 quarterback
Easily, yeah,
in an
for
Easily.
sure.
And yeah,
NFL draft. I
yeah.
think it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like you can argue that he's gonna have higher upside than like especially not like Herbert on a week to week basis. Because who the hell is Herbert throwing to?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, look, that's why it gets kind of interesting now when you start going down the slot here at that four. You've got Arizona, who look, they're obviously not taking a QB. They're most likely going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. We'll dive into that a little bit more next week.
Or
Yeah,
trade
but
down.
they could. They definitely could. I'm not saying it's
Yeah,
impossible because they could get a boatload for that pick. I think the wild card becomes at number 5 with San Diego or LA. Excuse me, it's not San Diego anymore. I think I
San
think
Diego.
that's the wild card of the draft, and that's where everyone's going to start. Okay, you have Minnesota who just acquired another first round pick. Now they have 11 and 23. Like, what are they doing? Do they have enough ammunition to get to 5? The interesting thing about the Vikings is that they don't have very many picks. I think they have two first, and then they go right down to fourth. They don't pick again to the fourth round anymore. I think they have I believe it's two fourth rounds, two fifths, sixth, and a seventh. Anyways, then next year too is the capital is not fully, like, it's not a full cupboard. So I'm trying to think to myself, like, if they're trying to move up to 5, it's going to take more than 11 and 23. And then you're like, like, what do you have this year? Like, you're gonna take the QB, let's say at 5. Let's say they take JJ at 5 if he's there. Now, what do you got for now? You're not picking to the fourth round. Like, what's the plan in Minnesota?
They don't have enough. I still don't think I think they need to trade up again to one spot to then trade those picks to
Yeah,
get
but
into
with
the
what
top four.
capital? Like, that's what I'm trying to
I
say.
don't
It's like they don't have enough in
I
the
don't
cupboard.
know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but it's not enough. The 11 and 23 is not enough, in my opinion, to
No.
move up to 5 or even 4 or 3.
No, it's going
So
to take another first round pick in 2025 for them to get that high. And so the whole Minnesota Vikings things is interesting because I've been reading up on obviously that they're the trades that they made as hit the headlines, and you look at who they have on their staff. They have Josh McCown, who's their quarterbacks coach, who used to also
yeah,
coach Drake May, right, in high
yeah,
school, I think.
yeah,
High school, yeah.
yeah. It's a nice goal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yep.
great call out.
yeah, and so people are connecting those dots very strongly, which makes sense. Like it could be obviously a very good relationship there too, and imagine how nice it would be for Minnesota to have Drake May be in the same quarterback room as like an existing quarterback there who's also trying to get his feet wet and start up again and all that stuff. And they already have you talk about how being in a good system and a good and a good ecosystem for a quarterback to thrive. Rookie quarterback coming in and throwing to Justin Jefferson doesn't get much better than that. It would be nice. I hope not, as a Giants fan, but worse things have happened, I suppose. But that's something that I think we should be touching on too, right? There is that existing relationship there that could actually turn into something tangible for the Vikings and maybe push them even further to be like, okay, you know what? JJ McCarthy went second. Daniels is still on the board. Let's push up and maybe trade with Arizona. And then all of a sudden, Arizona, they can still get their wide receiver that they wanted to get, albeit at 11. But seeing as a wide receiver
No.
path is well, but I'm saying they can still get a wide receiver that they wanted to get, not the
Who's
wide
this?
receiver that they're not going to get.
Well,
Arizona.
the
Oh,
Marvin Harrison Jr., Neighbors or Dunze, they're not going to be there at
I
11. And at for what, like, the fact that they let go of Hollywood Brown, it would be a loss if they come out of this draft without one of those
no,
top
no,
three,
they're
in my opinion.
fair,
I can't see a world where they pass on Harrison. But I mean, look, anything could happen. You
fair.
can get look. They can. What happens if they dangle Addison? You know, what happens if they're what
That's I was
happens if they
thinking
dangle
Addison.
what
I was
happens if
thinking
they
Addison.
dangle Jefferson? Like you don't know. Maybe they don't want to pay this guy for $35 million a year. Like what happens if they dangle him instead? You know, they say, I'll keep my picks, I'll give you JJ for number five. You think the Chargers are gonna say no? The Chargers looking for a wide receiver. They have cap space now. They can make it work. I think they're 33 as of today. They were like 33 million over under the cap, excuse me. Like, is it so far fetched for them to say, "Hey, I want number five. I'll give you 23 and JJ. You give me back five and I don't know a second or a third, something like that." Like, it's not. I don't think it's out of the question. Uh,
You're putting a first round value next year on Justin Jefferson this year. Is that how am I interpreting it? Like if you're like what was that offer then?
if
Like you
Justin Jefferson right now with his experience,
yeah
okay, it's with his
yes.
experience, he's available at fifth in the draft. Are you not taking him? Are you not drafting Justin Jefferson above whoever else is there? But before Marvin Harrison, before all those guys, are you not taking JJ Justin Jefferson at
I
five?
think it's a little bit more. I think it's a harder question than that. You got to think about the contract that's going to cost because also you get these rookie guys that come in
For
super
sure. And
super
look, if you're
cheap.
strapped for cash, like it's
It's
different.
going to
But
put you
dude,
it's going to put you in cap hell. I mean, how much can he's going to be paid the highest? He's going to get the biggest contract for any wide
yeah, but
receiver.
they just
It's
shipped
all
out
guaranteed.
they just shipped out both of their top
Yeah,
wide receivers that were getting paid that were going to cost 30 something million over the cap. You trade out one to get
100%.
the best one in the league. Like I don't think it's that crazy, and they have the cap to make it work. I mean,
I don't think any GM would do that. Would pay an exist would use an existing player as a first round value. Have we ever seen that before?
at draft night, you're saying?
Yeah. As like, I'll give you a 23rd overall pick and my player, basically compensating for another draft pick that they could have gave them, or like another first round pick for the following year. Because these guys value their draft picks like
Yeah, for
it's
sure. But I'm saying even during the year, someone offers you something like JJ Justin Jefferson is not going for less than at least a first round pick. Like how you're not getting him for less than that. Like I highly doubt it. Not as person as his pedigree. Like
I think I,
I don't
I think it
disagree.
depends on the team. I think it depends on the team. Like, is Arizona ready? If they're able to make that move, is Arizona a contender right away? No.
It's true.
Are the Chargers the contender right away? No. So I think that whoever that team is has to factor in, are they a contender right away to take that much cap, the amount of cap that would come from having Justin Jefferson versus just staying at that pick and taking the rookie scale for the wide receiver at fourth overall, at fifth overall.
for sure, but you're still trading down and you're still getting a first round pick. So you're getting Jefferson and a first round pick. It's just going to be lower, right? If you can come out with a first round pick and Justin Jefferson, is what I'm saying. Like you trade Justin Jefferson and your 23rd, let's say, to move up to five, and you give them back, I don't know, whatever draft pick it is, a third, a fourth round pick, and I'd pick number five. Like to me, I personally don't think it may not happen only because like Harbaugh, like I don't think he's gonna like he doesn't really need that. If you ship two of them out of town, like I don't think he's gonna want it. But I just think
Yeah.
like for Vikings purposes, maybe they dangle one of their receivers to try to move up higher because to our point, it's gonna take more than 11 and 23 to get to five.
Yeah, that
That I
that I
agree with.
agree with 100%. I think that logic is sound. Yeah, 100%.
They don't have anyone else. They don't have enough draft capital. They're gonna
No.
have to append a current player.
Yeah, that's why I don't know how much higher they can get unless they start mortgaging their entire draft capital
and,
hugely.
and that QB better hit, man.
Yeah, well, that's like you
Yeah,
have to be really sure that like your Drake May is gonna hit and Josh McCown's gonna be on the hook for a lot of. A lot of future years for the Vikings
But then you
too.
have Denver too. Like, what does Denver do? What does Vegas do? Are they making a run at one of these guys, or are they happy to? I guess this segues into our final two guys that could go kind of in those ranges now, just because I feel like teams are getting very desperate, and I think in desperate times, you know, at the beginning of or towards the end of the year, people were talking like Penix and Bo Nix were going to be fringe first round picks and likely second round picks. And now the more stuff you read, the more like there could be trade ups for even these guys, and like there's going to be realistically there's going to be a fight between what the Vikings, the Denver and Vegas for these final two quarterbacks, right? Like each of these three teams is going to want one, and it's going to come down to who's going to want to pay more for these guys. As we just mentioned, the Vikings do have that two first round picks, and I still think it's going to take more to go up to five. But even Denver or Vegas is kind of the same thing. And Sean Payton needs to get back on course. Antonio Pierce is looking to start a franchise and start fresh, and he wants a guy. So Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell are not going to be the guys to take you to the promised land, right? So maybe you draft one of these guys and sit him, but even Denver, who does Denver have? Denver has both Stidham. Like
Stidham.
that's
Yeah,
not the guy. So I wonder that's going to be the wild cards for. What do you guys think? Bo Nix and Penix fall in this equation.
I've been hearing a lot of links for Bo Nix to Sean Payton. I just don't see him as first round value, and neither do a lot of other. Well, sorry, excuse me. I'm not going to put myself in the same class as the professional analyst there. But I've been reading a lot about it, and Penix and Bo Nix, those two guys are not graded as first round talents, but they're probably going to go into the first round, like you said, Nacc, just by virtue of having a very scarce product. And also, I think that a lot of the a lot of what you're hearing, these guys are getting high on all the quarterback talk and everything, and all the first four are going great, and then there's Penix and Bo Nix, and they all, if you look at their stats, both of them had fantastic seasons statistically. But and this is an interesting point that I wanted to bring up too. So I don't know if you guys follow him. His name is Ian Hartitz on Twitter. He does the fantasy life with Matthew Berry. He had a very interesting little nugget of information there. So the best worst Power 5 2023 supporting cast in terms of average, PFF, rush, receiving, pass blocking, and run blocking. So basically, on average, the best graded team of Power 5. Oregon was first, 86.6. LSU second, 84. Washington fifth, 81.3. Michigan 12th, 79.5. And this is a mark out of 100. USC 15th, 78.3. North Carolina 31st, 72.8. So just to show you the average quality of player that each of these guys is playing with, Bo Nix is playing with a much higher caliber of teammates around him, which is a good reason why his stats are as they are. He looks as good as he is. I find it interesting that LSU is so high, but I think that also falls with the wide
Yeah,
receivers. Because I know we mentioned, I know I mentioned the first two they're going to be drafted in the draft this year, but apparently that entire room is stacked as well, from what I've been hearing. There's a lot of guys in the wings that are coming up too. They're going to be interesting for next year. Washington, there's a lot of players that are going to be drafted out of Washington. Michigan, USC, later on, it kind of plays into the whole narrative of how these guys are being looked and how Penix and Nix should not be looked as first round talents.
Oh, Fab, you just listed like five of the best programs in college football. Like it's normal that the best programs in college football recruit the best players, no?
Yeah, 100%. You're right. I
Like
get you on that.
the best
But we,
programs are
but we,
they're gonna have the best players. Like
I,
they have the best coaches. They have the best like training staff. Like Oregon recruits like they recruit from Cali. They recruit from Texas.
mhm.
They recruit from Washington
the
State. Like they
training
recruit
facilities
everywhere. So
mental.
same with yeah, it's mental. So it's very very conducive, right? Like there's no salary cap in
Yeah,
college.
no, you're
So
right. I just think it's an interesting statistic to point out about how like the supporting cast that these guys have on average, are a lot stronger, a lot better than the
Yeah.
supporting cast of the other players, of the other quarterbacks that we're evaluating that have been performing as good, if not better than that. So it gives you sort of the
Who
sort of makes you understand. It gives you the perspective of like, okay, how good are these quarterbacks really? Are they only good because of the products that they have?
yeah.
And I guess I know Oregon and their pro days are coming up, and so we're going to probably know more then. But I thought it was interesting about how, and this is a perfect step. Well, this is a comparable to Caleb Williams. Um, they're they've had. I think he had the most blowout losses of any of the top quarterbacks that are being looked at right now. Like they were routinely behind by like 20 points going in.
Who's this?
Caleb Williams and USC,
Yeah, their defense
Yeah, it was
was
very
that
bad.
and
strong as
he's
well.
still exactly, and he still performed well to the point where it's like, okay, this guy's gonna be drafted first overall.
Well, I won a
And he
Heisman 2 years
also,
ago, also.
I was about to say that he won a Heisman 2 years ago as well. Thank you. So like, it's just, it's an interesting. Again, like we don't know 100% how these guys are going to pan out. We have no idea. Not even
Yeah,
the GMs do technically. We're just here. We're
totally.
just having fun on the podcast. But it's just good to know that what, like all these like I like Bo Nix. I think I don't know. He has a quarterback name. It sounds cool, but the rest of his team around him like is also
Sounds
it's also
cool.
cracking right. The rest of the team around him is doing so well. It's like I get why he might be perceived as as a later round pick and a second round pick, and maybe not a starter, but he could turn into something. Could turn into a project. Um, could be turned into something that I think Sean Payton was really interested in.
So do you ding CJ Stroud for that for last year at OSU? Because they had a ton, like OSU always has a ton of talent.
He proved
No,
everyone. He proved
I don't.
everyone wrong. I
Yeah,
mean, he did have some
I,
talent last year that kind of
I think I
progressed year, but he.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, he kind of proved everyone wrong in a sense that
it's a hard question to ask now because he's in the pros, but it's the same. To Fab's point, it's the same thing that comes out with OSU is that they have the most talented teams all the time, and their quarterbacks. We see it. It's a rocky road. Fields came from
yeah,
OSU.
they have a very
There's
bad they have a very bad
Cardell.
track record for QBs.
There's yeah, Dwayne Haskins. Rest in peace. For me, Penix. I fucking love this guy.
Yeah,
I
you've been
fucking
on
love
Penix.
watching this guy play. Like the way he throws, like just like fuck you throws, like deep post, deep seam. Like he doesn't. He just throws it in there. He has a Dunze. Like he doesn't give a shit. He just throws it in there. And he runs and he rocks a do rag.
I think
Like
he. I
you
think
can't.
honestly,
Like you can't. He rocks a do
Vegas.
rag. He's a
Yeah, there you
perfect
go. I was
Raider.
gonna
He's a
say.
perfect
Yeah,
Raider.
I think
Perfect
yeah,
Raider.
if he gets to the Raiders, I think that's a match made in heaven for them. And then look,
Yeah,
you can go in there and um, look, he's got a Devonte Adams in there, right? Like he can go in there right now. He can compete.
yeah,
And like I have no doubt in my mind, this guy's beating out Gardner Minshew uh, or Aiden
totally.
yeah.
O'Connell or O'Donnell, whatever his
I
name
think
is.
I yeah,
AOC.
his issue is the two ACLs. Like he tore both ACLs at Indiana and then
Yes,
he transferred to Washington. So I firmly believe it's the medical history that's bringing him
he's a bit
down the
older
draft
too, no?
board. Uh, he's a bit older. He's like 24, but like 45 starts. The Texas game, he was amazing. And then and that's the other thing that brings him down is against Texas, he was electrifying. Against Michigan, like a pro style
Yeah,
defense where they pressured him like crazy, then he wasn't able to escape,
Yeah,
wasn't
and the
able to
national
move as much.
championship, he
Nick,
did not have a good game.
yeah,
it,
yeah.
so I think that's an impact.
100%.
That's a factor for sure. Nix is great. Nix has amazing stats. He could run. He could throw. I think to your point, Fab, there's some validity because I was looking at a stat today that said about 30% of his throws were at the line of scrimmage or behind.
Yeah.
That's a ton of throws, and that's where I think what you're saying there has some validity. Whereas he's relying a lot
Mm-hmm.
on his supporting cast.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the Sean Payton likes quick processors. He likes guys who will throw the quick game, throw the short game. So I think that fit is valid. I just agree with Fab that I don't think you could draft Bo Nix 12th overall.
No,
Just too high.
I
No.
agree, and I just think there's going to be a lot of scramble. I'm really excited to see where all these QBs go. Who knows? Maybe one of Bo Nix or Penix doesn't get drafted in the first round. They got to wait till day two. Like maybe something happens. Maybe people are just not sold, and they're willing to go another year, or they're willing to go another route. Like we don't know. Um, maybe we could wrap up the segment by seeing which one you guys think has the most bust potential. Like, there's no way all six of them are going to be good. Like, it's very highly unlikely.
I-
So do we call a bust? Like, let's say if Nix and Penix get drafted in the second round, are they bust?
I'm saying like top, let's say first round grade bust. I guess if they get drafted in the
Mm,
second, it's a little. Well, look, I mean, if if Hertz somehow falls off a cliff now, he was a second round pick, but went to the Super Bowl, got paid. Like, can you talk to
yeah,
him and say he's a bust if he never plays well again? I think you can, because he came in there, got paid, and just the same thing with a Bo Nix or a Penix. If they come in, rocket
yeah.
a couple, like he got paid after year two, I think. Hurts, or is it year three? I think it's, yeah, he
Year
gets to play
three.
because
Uh,
first year he came in, it was rocky. Second year,
yeah,
yeah, it's
I think
true.
it's year
It was
two. I
after
think it's
year
year
two.
two. I think it was
After year
last
two,
year. Yeah,
it was right. Yeah.
yeah.
after the Super Bowl,
Super Bowl
and
after
then
Super Bowl.
last year you saw, okay, he lost his coordinators and it came a little rocky. I think we went off the rails a little bit there, but I'm saying I think you could still be considered a bust if you come in here, play well, get paid, and then never do well again.
I mean, I think hot take. I think Jayden Daniels has the highest chance to become a bust. I feel like because he only had one really good season at LSU, and and then this is not to discredit his stats or anything like that, right? But and even though he's played 55 games, there's a body of work that exists out there where four of the five seasons that he's been an active starter, an active quarterback, he hasn't necessarily put up other Heisman level performances. So you look at the last season, LSU was an amazing season. Sure, his wide receivers are completely stacked. I don't know how that's going to translate in the NFL. I think I think he's going to need a lot more assistance than maybe the other top three quarterbacks or four quarterbacks are going to be drafted. So I think that has a higher potential for a bust at the professional
I
level.
think a lot of running quarterbacks have that, are labeled as the most bust potential too, because they think, oh yeah, okay, this guy ran for 1,000 yards last year, like he's a one trick, like he's gonna be a rude awakening in the NFL, and I think it's easy to label them as like easy bust
Yeah,
candidates. Dan Orlovsky apparently loves Jayden Daniels, like he
Yeah,
loved
yeah,
Jayden Daniels,
yeah.
like raving about this kid.
Because he's a good pocket pass. He's
Yeah,
actually a
he
good
is.
pocket passer.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
really is. He really is. From
Yeah,
what I've seen
and
at
I
least,
don't know. It's
but
it's
it could
tough
change.
to see. I don't know. I know my friend Guido is going to hate me, but I think Bo Nix has bust potential, in my eyes. Like from what I've seen, from what I look at, I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know if his game is going to necessarily translate to pro game.
I think it depends where he gets drafted to, but like sort of like the whole just the Jalen Hurts conversation. I mean, yeah, sure, you could label him a bust if he's in the second round, but if he's in the second round, maybe doesn't start the first year. Maybe he actually sits for a little bit. They try to manage the play calling duties that best suit him. That way he can succeed. But
Possible.
I get your point though. It might not translate well to the NFL too.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that'd
Yeah,
be my, like. I can't see Caleb busting. I think Drake May struggles at the beginning, but like kind of Josh Allen style, where he struggles for the first few years and then kind of figures it out with the right
yeah.
coaching. So I don't. Again, he's got the arm, he's got the build. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to put like a bust potential on him. Jaden Daniels, again, it's again an easy candidate, but from what you said, like it makes sense. And then there's like the JJ McCarthy. I feel like he's just the biggest wild card. But like Harbaugh raves about this guy. Is it because he
Yeah,
coached him? Sure, some of it has to be, but like he raves about this guy. I think that's the one I'm most excited to see as a pro is JJ
yeah,
McCarthy, because like this guy is all people have been talking about. He was supposed to go like 11th and like late mid first round to like, look, now you're saying almost maybe second overall. So I'm really excited to see him. But I mean, with all the hype, he could have bust potential too. Yep.
Can I say mine?
yeah.
Um, just the UNC factor with Trubisky. I have to go May. I I don't want to say Howell's a bust, but and I know it was his rookie year, but I did not like what I saw from Howell. And this is a hard exercise. I think there's, except
We're
for Caleb,
guessing
I think
here, right? It's all
any one
guessing.
of
Yeah,
them could theoretically be a bust. But
even
just
Caleb,
just
like we don't.
yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
how many guys said that Ryan Leaf was going to be an amazing quarterback, and look where he is now, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah,
you know,
but I think like for me, Penix I would just be devastated. Nix is a good one. Yeah, I'll go with May if I had to choose. I'd have to go with May.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if JJ McCarthy has the most success.
Again, it's
Yeah,
going to depend where he goes. I
Like
think
long
depending where he
term,
goes,
yeah,
he needs to
yeah,
go somewhere where he's got a run game, right? Like that's where
100%.
he thrived. Like I think without that, he's going to suffer, right?
Where are we drafting Caleb Williams next year
QB2.
or this year?
Yeah,
QB2?
he's got weapons. He's starting right away, 100%. Like yeah, the,
Do we see a potential CJ Stroud finish
he's
for
easily,
next year for Caleb
easily,
Williams? Yeah,
easily, easily.
yeah.
yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
I don't think CJ Stroud. I don't think we could have seen how well CJ Stroud was going to do because we didn't assume the weapons would develop like they did with
No,
Tank Dell and
yeah,
Nico, and even Dalton Schultz had a really good
yeah.
year.
Well, Nico had a very nice year last year prior to CJ Stroud coming, but like
Yeah, he did.
decent,
You're right.
like not like
Yeah,
but to your point, I think the Tank Dell thing came out of nowhere. And that guy was just killing it. Like I think he was wide receiver 9 on a points per game basis before he got injured, which is stupid
Yeah,
for
no,
like
they
especially
hit.
someone
Like
that was
they had
5'8".
rookies that hit. Like
Yeah,
everything meshed in
yeah,
place, and
yeah.
everything hit. Like Houston's candidate for regression too, right? Like you don't know. Like they really went bonkers year
True.
one. Like
That's a very good point. We can't assume that CJ is going to have the same stats or even make the jump. That's a very good point. That's true.
but that's that'll be a discussion for another topic.
That's going to be a fun
Yeah.
discussion.
Well, guys, I think that that wraps up episode 2 here. I think that was great insight. Everyone, please just remember to keep commenting and apply your feedback, or give us your feedback so it could be applied, should I say. It was greatly appreciated for everyone who's listening. Please keep following us on the social media. So on Instagram, it's the Bush League Huddle. Same handle on TikTok as well as YouTube, and Bush League Huddle without the E on Twitter. So yeah, thanks again for listening. Hope you really like it. And we'll see you guys next week for episode 3. And to kick you guys out of here, I pay homage to my good friend Pat McAfee. Be a friend, tell a friend something nice. It might change their life. Goodbye.
peace.
Bye, guys.